So the Grand Champions Festival is all wrapped up, and that means we got to talk about things such as what Pokemon did well, what teams did well, what team won the tournament, what team got into the top 8. That's what I'm going to go into for you guys today. We're going to start off this video by going over the top 8 teams. We're going to go into a little bit of a deep dive into all of them, see what I thought was interesting about them or not so interesting, see why I think they may have performed better than other teams. We're going to go into all of the usage stats for day 1, day 2, and top cut as well. And whatever else we can think of along the way while we're going over the metagame as it stands, because this Pokemon tournament had over 6,000 people play and over 10,000 people enter. And if you like these tournament breakdowns, don't forget to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, put on notifications so you don't miss any, become a member, and I'll review teams. Click hype if you're on mobile. And now we can go ahead and start the video. All right, so like I mentioned in the intro, I want to go right into the top 8 teams, starting with the winning team. From Ragav, he decided to run dual megas with Charizard Y and Eternal Floette. As you can see, the Charizard Y and the Flow are pretty standard. I guess technically 3 attack Floettes is not as standard because a lot of them run PokeMaineEvent now. I am a Light of Ruin believer heavily because of what it can do to mons like Kingambit. It'll just OHKO pretty much everything on this list except for like Charizard, right? On its own team, it'll kill Kingambit, it'll kill Bascu, it'll kill Garchomp, it'll kill Aerodactyl, and a lot of other mons in the metagame, which we'll go over at some point. But the Charizard standard, Eternal Floette's mostly standard. The Garchomp was Dragon Fang Scale Shot, which is interesting because Scale Shot without loaded dice is obviously a very, very difficult move to run. But the Dragon Fang increasing the damage, making it where the 3 hits, I think, do more than Dragon Claw with the Dragon Fang. And 3 hits is not uncommon, right? Because you're always guaranteed 2. So you basically only need 1 roll, which is probably in your favor, to get the 3rd hit and do more damage than Dragon Claw does, right? The Scale Shot being 2 guaranteed, yeah, that's actually pretty cool tech. I actually didn't consider that like in building when using Chomp. I just went to like Dragon Claw, because you do a lot of good damage. But I'm pretty sure, and I'll maybe run the calc after and include it in like the visuals or something. I wonder if 3 Scale Shot hits KOs other Garchomps. That'd be a really cool calc to know. The Kingambit is a Kingambit set that has become very standard. If you play on ladder at all, you'll run into this low kick plus Chopple. It kind of becomes these weird low kick Chopple mirrors where both Kingambits are running Chopple and they both try to low kick each other, which is why the Kingambits also feel very fast if you've noticed on ladder. Even in my run, the Kingambits, I thought I was running a fast Kingambit, but they were running a lot of speed to basically like take advantage of the tailwind on most of their teams and to win the low kick Kingambit Chopple mirrors, which is a really funny sentence to say. This Aerodactyl, however, where normally they would run dual wing beak, this one has Rock Slide, Tailwind, Wide Guard, and Protect. Now, Ragav in the post interview mentioned that Wide Guard was there because literally only thing that kind of stops Zard Y from kind of running over teams essentially is Rock Slide, right? It's the only like rock move people are running right now. I'm not really running Rock Tomb as much. Really, man, hope you guys can't hear that. But Rock Slide is the only thing that really stops Y. So basically, when you have Aerodactyl and Zard on the team together, you click your Wide Guard, and your Charizard is kind of just on the field, just clicking Heat Wave for free, Weather Ball for free, Solar Beam for free. So that's a really interesting tech that I think is going to pick up a lot. I guarantee that Wide Guard Aerodactyl will become a new standard when you're on ladder, so look out for that for sure. Otherwise, Rock Slide is just really good in the format right now. Hitting both targets, hitting all the other Zards are super effective in the mirrors. You get good damage on stuff like Basket Legion, even Sleezer and Kingambit that resist don't really like taking Rock Slides because of the flinch chance. I've seen a lot of people lose their runs due to flinch chance. I think Ragav even won in top 4 a match. I won't say a match, a game in a set because he was able to flinch the Rock Slide. It might have been in game 3 though, so who knows? But yeah, the Rock Slide flinch chance seems really, really important right now. So having a way to defend against it and inflict it made his Aerodactyl better than other Aerodactyl. His Basket Legion was very standard. Wave Crash, Last Respect, Aquajet, Flip Turn. I know there's some contention on Zard Y and Basket Legion on the same team, but I think for the most part it's okay for a couple of reasons. Since one, you choose when the sun goes up with your Charizard, right? So you kind of can Wave Crash freely if you want. 2, Last Respects is really Basket Legion's best move because it's an end game sweeper. Nothing really wants to take boosted Last Respects. And regardless of the sun turning off damage to your Wave Crash, Flip Turn, and Aquajet, Zard Y is a Weathermon that has to deal with other Weathermons, correct? So you're dealing with stuff like Frostlass and Pelipper and Tyranitar. So if they do manage to win the Weather War or Turn Off Your Weather, Basque Legion kind of still thrives in those matchups, right? It destroys Tyranitar and Excadrill. It thrives in the rain because it's on all the rain teams. It is really good into Frostlass as well. Last Respect, after a few boosts, will just destroy it. Wave Crash will do pretty decent damage, or you can flip turn on it and dodge the Shadow Walls if you're not boosted, right? So Basque Legion is just a very, very good Pokemon overall. I notice the team does not have Sneasler on it. And I'm not sure what the thought process was behind no Sneasler, but I think it's because all the other spots are just kind of too important, right? Because with your Garchomp and your Floette, you cover all the other dragon types, right? You cover the Mega Dragonite, you cover the Garchomp, you cover the Charizard X's. This especially helps cover Charizard X, right? Because Charizard Y, I think this whole team could have a little bit of trouble with Charizard X, because Charizard Y can't hit it. Flare Blitz will KO Kingambit very easily. Floette can do damage to it, but like it'll destroy Floette in a Flare Blitz if it wants in one hit. Basque Legion's Wave Crashes are neutral, so it can, and also I think you can like Tough Claws boost the Dragon Claw Basque Legion in one hit, depending on spread. And I don't know if you need +1 or not. Well, like for example, like Charizard X is really, really hard for this team. Aerodactyl will obviously hit it for like super effective, but the Charizards are very bulky. So like you have these options that really, really help. I don't know how much Sneasler helps in that kind of a matchup. I'm trying to think, what are the matchups? The Sneasler sometimes helps in the sand matchup for people, but like I think Basque Legion and Garchomp cover the sand matchups very well, and so does turning off the sand. So I think that matchup is covered. Also, opposing Floettes could be an issue for teams that don't have Sneasler, but I think that your Charizard X being a Mega that beats Mega Floette is really helpful. So you kind of already have the Floette matchup mostly checked. So I don't think Sneasler was a necessity for this team. Obviously, it was like the most used Pokemon in the entire tournament, but it didn't win it, and it wasn't necessary to win it. So for people who have like mixed emotions on Sneasler, you can win without it. You probably do better with it, but because you're not all, none of you guys are Ragav, but but yeah, he didn't need to win this. So let's go ahead and look at the second place team. This is the runner-up team, Mega Umbreon, White Herb, Sneasler, the standard Sneasler slate. As you can see, this team did have the Sneasler, Kingambit, Basque Legion, Dragonite, Milotic, and Frostlass. So if you watch the finals, it was a pretty convincing win for Ragav, and I think it's just due to the matchup, right? I think the matchup is just really hard for Mega Umbreon. Like obviously this person is very, very good at the game because they made finals. I don't think they just got outclassed on a technical skill standpoint by that much. I think the matchup plus Ragav being an expert at his team just made it really hard, and I'll go over why I think that. So you also had the Chople Kingambit stuff, right? I think against Ragav's team specifically, and I'll just go back over to it real fast. The Kingambit, without knowing if you're faster than this Gambit, and having the Float with Light of Ruin that we know OHKOs it, and the Garchomp being here with Rough Skin and Stomping Tantrum, and the Charizard Y, I think that Umbreon was a bit scared to bring his Kingambit. The problem that arose though, however, was that he kept losing to like Basque Legion. And you need your Gambit to check Basque Legion, otherwise it's going to just kind of run over you. That's why like I ran Gambit on like a team that I was playing in this tournament, because I was like, man, Basque Legion is really hard. I need something like solid to check it. And you kind of needed it to check that, because with Ragav's control of the board, if he loses a mon, if you don't have Gambit, Basque Legion just kind of just takes all these things out, right? Like Basque Legion will one-shot Sneasler. It'll one-shot Frostlass with your boosted up Last Respects. The Milotic doesn't really want to take Last Respects if it's chipped. Not to mention, Milotic doesn't really want to come to the matchup as it is, because it's a Sun matchup and it's getting its damage reduced, and it's getting like flinched, and it's getting solar beamed, and it's just useless. So he was kind of forced into bringing Basque Legion, Dragonite, Frostlass, Sneasler. But like Frostlass also couldn't do much in the matchup because it's going up against Charizard Y, which is a bad matchup for it. Aerodactyl hits you for super effective, and it's faster is a bad matchup for it. Kingambit is a bad matchup for it, but you kind of have to bring your Mega. You need to set up your Veil. You got to get your blitzes off. You have to do something, right? The Dragonite as well was at a bit of a disadvantage in the matchup because it is multi-scale. However, it's slower than everything on the opposing team. It loses the Garchomp and Aerodactyl if they're on the board together. You can break multi-scale very easily with one, hit it with the other. Like the matchup was so poor. And then Sneasler without Sash, you would think that it would have an advantage because there's no dual wing beat here. But like, again, if the Unburden doesn't proc, or if Tailwind gets put up by this Aerodactyl, and everything on this team kind of just like destroys, right? But once again, Invented Magic Legion one shots it, Charizard one shots it, Garchomp will one shot it. Actually, no, I don't know if Garchomp one shots it because I think it was a bulky Sneasler, so it may not have gotten one shot, but we don't know for sure, right? But the team is still very, very good. Like I think this is one of the better Frostlass teams that I've seen in the format for sure. I've seen another cool one with like Arcanine and Palafin that I actually want to try out. But I do think the team was built very well because you see the top three here. These three are basically megas, right? Sneasler, Kingambit, Basket Legion. While I am not a Frostlass believer as a Pokemon on its own, getting your guaranteed Aurora Veil and then just playing Sneasler, Kingambit, Basque, or getting your Aurora Veil and playing like Basque, Dragonite, Milotic is very, very good. I will give you that. I will admit that without even hesitating. Getting like, for example, you get your Veil up, you have your multi-scale D-Knight, you can get Tailwind up, you can use your Dragon Claws with the Dragon Fang. You get a lot of damage down, a lot of value out of Dragonite with that, and you get a lot of value out of Kingambit behind Veil as well, right? And because the Sneasler, like I said, I believe it was a bulkier Sneasler, can already live hits without the Veil. With the Veil, it lives a lot more hits, so now it's getting chances to proc its Unburden a lot. Click more close combats because it's bulky, but now you have the Veil, so if you click close combat, you get one for free with White Herb, and then you get another technically for free with the Veil up, because even though you're -1 defense, the Veil is basically a +1 defense. So I think this is a really, really well constructed team. I think if you want to run Frostlass, this is a way to do it. I do think though you need to be able to find a way to tech something on to deal with the Ragav team. So let's go ahead and look at the third place team. So we're going to speed up through a bit of these because I want to focus on the finals teams. But this team that got third place was Aerodactyl, Garchomp, H/, Incineroar, Rotom, Wash, and Eternal Floette. That's just the Floette that we had to submit in the sheets because for a while they could not upload Eternal Floette, but I think they fixed it later. But yeah, so this is more of a standard Aerodactyl. The Garchomp here is more of a standard like White Herb. Usually they're White Herb or Citrus or like Lumberry. So this one also had Swords Dance, however, which is the deviation. And I think with the White Herb and the Swords Dance, it allowed for this Garchomp to have a bit more bulk throughout the course of the tournament, which is really, really helpful on Chomp because there are some things that are super effective, but that are not stab. For example, stuff like Milotic's Ice Beam and Milotic's Ice Beam and Icy Wind can hit you for super effective, but if you can EV to take less damage from those, it's really helpful because again, you can get up your free Swords Dance, and you do have something to help you set up the Swords Dance with the Incineroar with Fake Out. And I'm pretty sure that +2 Garchomp calcs into most things are like really, really high. So that's a really, really interesting innovation for this particular tournament that I think worked out really well. This person got the third in the standings. The Aegislash here is a bit unconventional. What you'll see here on most Aegislash are a combination of a couple move sets. They'll all have King Shield because you need it to activate Stance Change. They'll all run Poltergeist, it's just best go stab. And then they'll either run like Poltergeist, Iron Head, Sacred Sword, or Poltergeist, Shadow Sneak, Sacred Sword. But they usually always have Sacred Sword. This set does not have Sacred Sword at all. And honestly, it wasn't like a detriment into winning, like making it deep in the tournament. But I do think that like you could have some troubles if you're in a matchup where your other things to take down Kingambit are gone, and you're stuck with like an Aegislash that can't hit it for anything, right? But also I think this player probably decided to drop it because of all the chopples anyway. And you kind of just lose, right? You hit Sacred Sword, they chopple through you, and then they just like counter cleave anyway, right? So I could understand completely that Floette was probably more of a problem matchup for you because one, you have to deal with the mirror, your Garchomp losing to it, Rotom losing to it, Aerodactyl can have trouble if your sash is broken. You'll just get one shot if your sash is broke. And Incin could also have trouble with Floette, right? So I can understand needing the Iron Head to cover that matchup. So I don't blame this player at all. Otherwise, the Rotom is pretty standard. Wisp being the third move option here. Some people run like Electro Web, some run Volt Switch, depending on the didn't mean to move that. Depending on the item. This was like a bulky Citrus Berry for Will-O-Wisp, so makes sense. Another 3 attack. I'm a big believer in 3 attack Floette. So I like this team a lot. Pretty standard, but the Swords Dance and the no Sacred Sword are the deviations from the norm on this team. Next up, we have Super Saiyan, who went with Gengar and Alola Ninetales. I was so like glad and also annoyed that I saw this team performing for a couple reasons. One reason being that I was actually building Gengar and Ninetales myself to try to like do content with. But if you make a paste, maybe I'll just play it. But like Encore, like you're a really fast Encore user, right? You also have Disable, and you have Perishong. I was gonna run Disable on the Gengar and Encore on the Ninetales, so I could do them both in one turn. So you can disable their last move and then Encore them into it immediately, right? So now they're just struggling right away. But I think Encore and Disable on one slot while the other side has the Perishong, I think is really strong. Obviously it is, because it did really well in this tournament. The Sneasler is pretty standard. This Dragon Fang Dragonite is picking up a lot. This one doesn't have Tailwind, it asks for Protect instead. But the Dragon Fang Dragon Claw with the multi-scale is really, really good. I think that's a tech that's going to pick up. If you notice if you notice that you're taking a lot more damage from opposing Dragonite's Dragon Claws, or your dragons are getting one shot, it's because they're probably holding a Dragon Fang. So keep that in mind when you're laddering. Chocolate Berry Gambit, like we mentioned, that's pretty standard. Incineroar is pretty standard. Sneeze is pretty standard. Alone Nines, I'm not going to Saber Blizzard. No Veil, no Icy Wind is the deviation from the norm here, and the Gengar is pretty standard. This player testing 800 had the standard Aerodactyl. They decided to run Komodo, which I think is good. Like you guys saw my video on counter picks, Komodo was one of those. Komodo is something that you can set up, and I think you can KO King Gambit after you set up. You can do a lot of damage and stuff like Basket Legion after you get your setup. You'll outspeed most things after you get your setup. You do a ton of damage and stuff like Sneasler. You will not have your damage ruined by mons like Scovillain. I think this team is very well constructed in the sense that, like, Scovillain being the mega of choice here, plus your King Gambit and your Komodo setting up, it means that these physical attackers can't just like run through you. So you get your chance to do a lot of big damage with King Gambit and Komodo together, as well as like Sneasler, of course, and Basket Legion, but those are like the normals. But I think the combination of Komodo and Scovillain is a really interesting one, because you do get like the Spadef boost on this as well. So burning the opponents, getting a Spadef boost on setup makes your Komodo very, very valuable. So I think this is a really, really fun, innovation on using Komodo teams. Michael DeBest. This guy was playing the tournament while on the train and at dinner, if you saw his Twitter thread about this. He ran Colberberry Aegislash with Sacred Sword. I think that's really cool. Because like I mentioned a minute ago, the King Gambits are all running like Chople, right? So with this, they can live your, moves, your Sacred Sword with a Chople, but now you can live like their Kowtows or their Sucker Punches, right? And then with Sacred Sword and Colberberry and Shadow Sneak, the King Gambit matchup isn't as horrid, because again, you can live their Dark type moves as well as dodge Sucker Punch with Shadow Sneak, right? So that's really, really cool. I think that's really interesting innovation on Aegislash. Rotom was pretty normal. He went with Volt Switch as his electric move for pivoting. The Gengar was also pretty standard. Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Disable. Like it'll always be like Disable or Perishong there. The Sugar Berry Incineroar, pretty standard. Not a lot of people are running Sugar, but Sugar is a very, very good item on Incineroar if you want to be able to dodge ground types. And I think because Gengar and Aegislash are already weak to ground, and Incineroar is already weak to ground, I think having the Sugar +1 immunity really helps the Garchomp matchup a ton. Plus the Ninetales to hit it for super effective. Now, obviously, Scarf Chomp is still pretty tough as he was running Scarf Chomp. But I think the Intimidate, the Sugar, the Fake Out, like, it really helps that matchup a ton. Scarf Chomp is not something I'm a big believer in normally. I don't think it's very good, but it does give you the fastest Rock Slide in the game, and Rock Slide has been cheating a lot lately, so I gotta respect it. I don't have a choice. This person ran a Rain team with Pelipper as well as Rain Dance Sableye, so they really wanted to make sure the weather stayed up, and I do not blame them, right? Because you have the Archaludon here, which gets the Electro Shots, which is very standard. Basket Legion, Adaptability Wave Crashes they're like getting hit with a Typhoon, and you're like a little rowboat. Like, it's really, really strong. Not to mention the Rain also protects a lot of this team. King Gambit struggles in the Sun matchup, but with the Rain up, you can live those hits. Same as Venusaur, right? Venusaur would struggle in Sun matchups, especially your Mega Venusaur. Even if it's like, even if your Mega Venusaur can take more hits than usual from fire types because of thick fat, it still doesn't want to take like Sun boosted weather balls from Charizard Y. Like, just kind of just is what it is. So having the Rain up really, really helps that matchup a ton. The Sableye went no attacks. Sableye being no attacks is actually pretty standard for Sableye, because it's either like 4 status moves or 3 status moves and like Foul Play, right? And Foul Play doesn't really hit enough things in this format for a ton of damage as it is. It doesn't hit King Gambit for much. Basket Legion will just take you out before you even get a chance to like click it anyway. so it doesn't really matter. But I think having Encore and Disable on this set to kind of cheat the opponents out of being able to use their moves into you, as well as having your Will-O-Wisp to damage mitigate and your Rain Dance to keep your weather up, is really good. Now, I will say you can't isolate a Sableye like this. Realistically, like, it's really hard to isolate the Sableye when you're getting burned and your 3 mons right here all are like bulky monsters, right? So I think that's a really, really cool thing. This team could have a little bit of a Floette Zard issue, which is maybe why they didn't like win the whole thing. But because like you can't cover for both with, because you only can bring 4. So like if they bring like the Floette mode and you bring like Arch Sableye, right? And they have like Floette and Gambit, then they can kind of tear through that, right? But let's say they bring like the Sun mode and you don't bring the Sableye Pelly, you're in trouble, right? So it's kind of a call. But I still think it's a very, very good team, a very, very interesting team. Venusaur is not a mega that you see at the top of the rankings all the time. And you definitely don't see any Sableye. So really, really cool. And the last team in the top 8, oh, I was so happy to see Kang, because Kang is the GOAT. I like Kang. I'm not a big fan of like Trick Room stuff, but it's not hard TR, so I'll give it a pass. The team has a lot of synergy that I like as well. Like you get to fake out the Trick Room stuff with the Fari. Kangaskhan obviously can fake out the ghost types as well, which is really good. And then you can just invest all in your bulk and your attack. And that way under Trick Room, you're probably outspeeding a lot of the format. Like if you just look at like the previous team we looked at, right? You can underspeed all these mons, not all of them, like King Gambit or like Sableye, whatever. But like if Pelipper is running like max speed and I think you're running no speed or like a negative speed nature, you can like underspeed. Arch, if it's running some speed and you're running like a negative speed, you can underspeed. Basque Legion, you can definitely underspeed because it's Choice Scarf. So it kind of depends on speed. Maybe let me find a better example, actually. Oh yeah, so a team like this, boom. Garchomp is going to be faster than you. Ninetales is going to be faster than you. Gengar's going to be faster than you, and you can figure it out, right? Rotom, I think it depends on natures. But like teams that have like all this speed, like 3 mons above the 100 speed tier anyway that you can never outspeed normally, having your Kangaskhan in the Trick Room would be really nice. Sneasler's always faster than you, Basque Legion, Aerodactyl. So yeah, there's a lot of fast mons in the format that you can take advantage. Even though Mega Kang is base 100, you can still take advantage of being in Trick Room. And having a fake out that his ghost types always guarantees it. This team also has double weather, where it's Torkoal and Charizard Y. So another team that really prioritizes keeping the weather up. We have the Sneasler here, which again is pretty standard. Now this person had sub Primarina, which I think is like really, really interesting. I'm not a big Primarina believer. And you would think that it clashes with the Sun Team stuff. However, I think that having the Mystic Water to boost your damage, and also you can go like Kangaskhan for Giraffe, right? And you can get your Primarina in if the Sun matchup looks really bad for you. For example, if it's a Sand matchup, you can fake out Trick Room, and now Primarina's on the board to be able to hit those Tyrannitars for super effective, hit those Escargols for super effective. If it's like a opposing Rain matchup, you can get your Trick Room up, and now Primarina with his Moonblast is very, very strong. You can even like fake out the Arch, get a sub, and your sub isn't going to break from like a Pelipper Hurricane because Primarina is too specially bulky. So like you have a ton of options into bad weather matches because of Primarina, and I think that's actually really, really smart use of Primarina here. Anything else on this team out of the ordinary? Hammer Arm and Ice Punch. Does Hammer Arm lowers your own speed, right? I think Hammer Arm lowers your own speed and Ice Punch hits Chomp. So I think that's really cool. Now that I think about it, that's really cool because you also hit the King Gambits for a lot of damage. You hit him twice, and then you lower your speed so you can take more advantage of Trick Room. This is really cool, and I actually wonder if I can contact this person about their team because this is really, really fun. But now we're gonna go ahead and look at like some of the usage stuff. Someone decided to join me for the recording, but he's gonna sit down now and be good, so I can just get over this. So I'm actually gonna go Swiss Phase 1 first. So as you can see here, Sneasler was the most used Pokemon in the tournament with about a 50% win rate. Usually that's like the sign of a really strong Pokemon. 50% probably doesn't seem like a lot. However, when you think there's 3,000 of a Pokemon in a tournament where I think at least 6,000 people actually participated. I know 10,000 registered, and that's how the story will be told, that we played in a 10,000 person tournament, but 6,000 people actually actively participated. So when a Pokemon has this many, you have to consider that it's going to face itself a ton, right? So having a 50% win rate is what you'd expect. If it was like a 40% win rate, then that means that something is really, really wrong, because with that number, you're facing yourself, so you get half the losses, but you also get half the wins. Garchomp did really, really well for 2,500. It actually had a little bit over 50% win rate. So that means like Garchomp just converted like super, super well for its share of the usage stats. Incineroar, a little bit less than 50%, which tends to happen because what ends up happening with a mod like Incineroar specifically is a lot of people will kind of put it on their teams because they think they should and not because it fits. Like if you saw the top teams that I showed you, not all of them had the Incineroar because not all of them had room for Incineroar. So, but Incineroar is one of those utility mods that kind of everyone just kind of throws in their last slot, even if it's not the best mod for the best option for that pick. I stumble because I can hear music outside, and I'm hoping you guys cannot. Cine is an interesting one because it is one of the top 5 most used mods on ladder. I don't think it was represented in the top 8 at all. I need to see how it looked in cut, like in 16, which I'll click in a moment. You can see it here. 48% win rate is still pretty good. 1,600 of them is still crazy. More than Basque Legion is actually interesting. I expected Basque Legion, especially with the representation in cut in day 2, to be higher. And you can see, right, like people who brought Basque Legion did very, very well. They 53% of the wins for a mod that was 6th in usage compared to like I thought it would be much higher. That's so interesting to me that Cine overtook it. This probably has to do with like people wanting to play Blastoise, Zardex, Scizor, stuff like that, which require a Cine on the team. So I'm not super duper surprised that it's up here. Aerodactyl being this high is not surprising either. 1,500 people brought Aerodactyl. Also had a very, very good win rate. Zard's usage is a bit interesting because we don't have a breakdown of it here to know if it's Zard X versus Zard Y. Presumably most of them are Zard Ys though, right? We kind of can infer that, and it had a really good win rate regardless of what Zard you brought. Rotom having this heavy usage actually surprised me at first glance, but then I looked down the list, I'm like, oh, there's no electric types in this format. Oh, people are scared of Milotic. People are scared of Zard Y. People are scared of Aerodactyl. People are scared of Basque Legion. So yeah, Rotom makes sense that it has this much usage, and it did pretty well. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Milotic was the 10th most used Pokemon. Milotic was picking up usage a lot lately. It didn't start this high, but people kind of realized that like water types are also at a premium, especially bulky water types. Because even though Rotom can run bulky, it can't be as bulky as like Milotic, and it doesn't have access to recovery moves like Milotic, or it doesn't have like the coverage Milotic has as well. It doesn't have Hypnosis, doesn't have Coil, doesn't have Ice Beam. So Milotic picking up is not surprising at all. T-Tar is the second most used weather setter. For draft being this high was actually very surprising. I think people were tired of getting faked out and they're tired of getting sucker punched. So a lot of people just threw Farigiraf on their teams. I'm going to assume that no, Charizard, I would say Charizard the most used mega. I was going to say maybe Floette is the most used mega at the tournament, but because I'm assuming most of these are Charizard wise, then I'm going to say it's the second most used mega. But still, 758 people brought it. And I know people were saying like this Pokemon has an access issue. I'm not really here to debate that, but I will say like a lot of people were able to bring it to this tournament. So we'll see. Weather, obviously very prevalent. Sun, sand, rain, and then even Frostlash, right? A lot of people brought Frostlash for the snow. So I actually just want to go over to Delphox, the GOAT, 52% wins, GOAT. Switch phase 2, as you can see, actually the difference between like phase 1, right? So phase 1, Basque Legion was 6th in usage, but as you can see, in phase 2 was 4th, right? This is what I was talking about. Like I was surprised it was like not in top 5 because it converted really well into day 2. Like 191 of them made day 2. You even see like Incineroar's win rate in day 2 went up because obviously in day 2, like as the player base's skill level goes up, right, which it usually does in day 2, those players are better at playing Incineroar than players in day 1, right? Players in day 2 are better at playing Basque Legion than players in day 1. Sneasel stayed up top, Garchomp stayed right behind it, Kingambit stayed right there as well. Aerodactyl top 5, Incineroar had a better conversion, better win percentage. Charizard stayed as the most used mega. Floette was also right behind there. So those guys, obviously the winning duo for the tournament, obviously they're going to convert well. Cine did do well. It didn't do as well in day 2, however. You see its 43% win rate in day 2 is not a good sign for a Pokemon that had 20% of the usage. So you have to look and see why Cine underperformed. My best guess is that because Charizard just did so well, it does make it a bit hard for Cine to exist. Like Charizard and Basque Legion make it a little bit hard, as well as Kingambit. Cine does need to be on specific team comps to do very well. So if it's not on that specific team comp, I think you're going to struggle. Like Cine on like Arch Halidon teams, I don't think I like very much. Because if you turn off the weather, then Cine and Arch both just struggle in Sun together, right? Which means you're gonna lose. People are running the Cine on Mons like Aggron, Mega Aggron teams. I don't think Mega Aggron is very good. Actually, I want to see how many people brought Aggron in day one real fast. Pardon me if you hear my mic moving because I just moved it so I can type. Yeah, 42% win rate for Aggron in day one. Aggron sucks. Like, stop memeing. Aggron stinks. Aggron in day two. Oh my gosh, 26% win rate. This guy is garbage. Cine, it's not your fault. I'm so sorry, Cine. I'm actually gonna click Aggron for you guys. We had the best Aggron was 10-5, so shout out to this player. There's some 8 and 6, 8 and 3s. But you see like Aggron and Cine, right? Aggron and Cine. Aggron and Cine. And then if we go down, well, Aggron and Cine, Aggron and Cine. So like Aggron brought Cine's win percentage down. I'm blaming Aggron completely for that. Actually, I'm gonna go up to Cine again and click it. See, look, Charizard and Cine did real nice together. Scizor and Cine did nice together, right? Cine on this, look, see, look at this, look how much Sinistcha wins when it's not being weighed down by freaking Aggron, dude. That's so unfair. Okay, so that I'm glad we got the context clues on that one. Also, since we're here, let's click this Charizard. Let's click the Charizard. There we go. So that's Sun. That's Sun. This is also Sun. So yeah, most of the Charizard, like we presumed, are Charizard wise. So that's not a surprise at all. Frostlass did pretty well, and it also made finals. I think that its team comps again are really, really strong because like you see here, like, oh, you have dual megas with Scovillain. So like you can set up Veil or you can use the burn. You can set up the Veil for the team that made finals. You set up the Veil, let your 3 real mega sweepers perform. I think with Tailwind, it's actually pretty solid as well because it's speed tier. While it's like a good speed tier, you still are slower than Aerodactyl. You're still slower than Scarf Bascule. You're still slower than those are actually the 2 primary threats. Still slower than all the Scarf Pokemon like Garchomp. But with Tailwind, you get more value out of it, right? You're still slower than Delphox, but with Tailwind, you can outspeed Delphox. So I think the Tailwind is also a good route if you want to run that. Obviously, your opponents can have Tailwind as well, but listen, you can't cover for everything. So these teams, I think, are the did Justin also bring Frostlass? I didn't know he brought Frostlass. You see here he brought the Aerodactyl itself, so he can also set Tailwind, I presume. Let me click that and just double check. So yeah, so Tailwind, he has the Veil. So same strategy, right? You set up the Veil, you have your Kingambit, your Bascule, your Sneasler, and your Chomp, and you use those 4 to play through stuff. And you have Tailwind as well if you want Aerodactyl to be if you want Frostlass to be a sweeper. So yeah, I think that's a very, very good way to run Frostlass. It sucks using your mega as a support piece, but like if the other Pokemon in the meta are so strong that they're outclassing megas, I think it's actually kind of okay. Let's go over to the top cut because I low key have been recording for a long time. I feel like Kingambit dominated the cut. It was a 16 cut. 16 team cut. I can't remember if they did extra asymmetric or not, but 11 in top cut is phenomenal. 10 is phenomenal. 10, like 7. These Pokemon are just clearly the best ones. As you can see, there's no Cine here. Gengar 4 in cut is actually awesome because people were kind of doubting Gengar a little bit. So shout out to Gengar for being 4 in cut and having a 60% win rate as well as making top 4. I think that was one of the teams that we mentioned. Yeah, Gengar was also in top 4. So shout out to Gengar showing that it's still one of the premier megas in the game. Frostlass also did very well. So shout out to Frostlass for another ghost type that had a 60% win rate and 4 in cut. So shout out to Frostlass. Another ghost type with 4 in cut. So killing ghost types are at a premium, right? Because they kind of just make Sneasler's life really hard. And if you can position them properly without letting the Bascule, if you can catch the Bascule Legion, you can kind of make it hard for Bascule Legion as well, right? So ghost types are very, very strong right now with 1, 2, 3, and 4 of them basically in the top like 15 in cut. Dragonite did pretty well in cut, 72% win rate, 3 of them in cut. 2 Scovillains in cut, pretty good. I think for a Pokemon I was seeing usage, like obviously these numbers are absurd, right? Because like you're just dominating the cut, but like having multiple of any Pokemon in cut is a good sign for the Pokemon, in my opinion. Having 1 just kind of means like, hey, this was a good tech pick, but not everyone can kind of run this and make cut. For example, I don't think you're going to see like 2, 3, 4, 5 Palafins in cut, or 2, 3, 4, 5 Kangaskhans or Zoroarks in cut. But you can like put one on a specific team and do really well, right? Like Hoj is known for like the hyper voice stuff. He's usually a Blood Moon or Saloon player. And I'm pretty sure that this thing has hyper voice on it, right? It does not. Oh snap, that's crazy. But he's still the normal type hyper voice guy. I don't care what that says. But yes, that's like the cut. If you want to look at like the combined usage, it's like all here, but essentially you kind of just want to break it down to see how good a Pokemon, how many people brought a Pokemon in day one shows how good people think the Pokemon is. The win rate shows how good it performed in day one, and it shows how many times it appeared in day two shows how good the Pokemon actually is. And then it's showing up in cut basically defines like if it's a meta staple, if it's meta dominant, which these top 4 are. They're meta dominant right now, which are they're all at like 9 and 10. Obviously, so is like Incineroar and Aerodactyl. Floette being at 6 basically means like, hey, this Pokemon is very, very strong and it's the best mega because it's 6 of them in cut versus like the next highest mega is 3. Even though Charizard won, so did Floette. Floette also won, so it's kind of the undisputed best mega right now, realistically, for it to have 6 in cut and win the tournament. Gengar is really good. 4 means that this Pokemon is real, right? So for us, I'll say that it's real. Gengar is real. Although Ninetales, I think is real because I think having a weather setter that doesn't need a team built around it is very, very strong. Ninetales can just exist on its own as a Pokemon with like Encore, Disable, Blizzard, Icy Wind, Veil, and you don't have to have like snow abusers, right? You can kind of just do things the right way. Same with Frostlass. You don't have to have snow abusers, which I think people were looking for, like ways to abuse snow. Like, no, the Pokemon needs to be used in a vacuum, regardless of whether or not the snow is up. And the snow is a way you counteract other weather teams, right? You don't really need like snow abusers. Now, I know the other weathers have abusers, but sometimes that makes game planning very, very one note and linear. And I think that can be a detriment because as you can see, right, there are not many Pelipper's here. There's 2 Pelipper's. There's 1 Arch. 1 Arch made cut, right? So I don't think you need to be like super locked into like weather in that way. If you look at like Charizard, there's 3 Charizards in cut, but you have to go all the way down here. You see there's only 1 Venusaur. And the 1 Venusaur in cut was not even like, what you call it, was not even on sun, right? So I think that you having a weather doesn't mean it needs to be a weather team is basically what I'm getting at. But that's all I got for today. I want to thank you guys for being here. Don't forget that if you want team feedback, team reviews, become a member, and that's a member perk. And you can send me your teams either through Discord or through the email in my bio, and I'll go over the teams for you. I'll remix them, send them back to you. I'll keep your spirit of the team so it still feels like yours, but I'll try to give it improvements so you can kind of climb the ladder with it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, turn on your notifications so you don't miss these. But now I'm just like rambling, so I'm gonna say goodbye. My puppy is also gonna say goodbye to you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.